It started with nothing. Just a quiet evening. A dim living room. A black and white movie flickering across the screen like forgotten memories. The kind of night where nothing should have changed except everything did. My name is Dana. I'm 47 years old. I've been married to Paul for over 22 years. Together, we built a home, raised 2 kids, paid off debts, and aged into comfort, or maybe into resignation. I'm not sure anymore. We were the kind of couple people assumed were solid. The kind who attended church together, hosted barbecues, and kept up appearances. But no one saw the spaces between us, the silences that grew wider with every passing year. We didn't fight anymore. That had stopped a decade ago. But the absence of conflict didn't mean peace. It meant detachment. Paul would come home from work, and I'd greet him with a nod, a reheated dinner, and a tired smile. He'd eat in silence, retreat to the garage or his recliner, and I'd clean, check the kids' schoolwork, and eventually sit on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall like it held answers. We slept like strangers. We existed like shadows of the couple we once were. Then came Tyler. Tyler was my best friend Monica's son. He grew up in our home as much as he did in hers, birthday parties, sleepovers, pool days. I watched him go from a lanky preteen with messy curls and grass-stained jeans to a quiet, thoughtful man. He was 31 now. Kind. Attentive. Still called me Miss Dana from habit, though the title felt strange now. He'd come around occasionally, helping Paul with small projects, checking on Monica when she was sick, visiting during the holidays. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifted. One night, Paul had taken his muscle relaxers early and fallen asleep upstairs. Tyler had stayed after dinner to finish watching a movie with me. He loved the old classics, the kind with heavy silence and meaningful looks. Said they reminded him of a time when people felt more deeply because they spoke less. We sat side by side on the couch, just like we had so many times before. Only this time, it felt different. The air was thicker. Every movement carried weight. His knee brushed mine gently, and I didn't pull away. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my head, but I said nothing. I didn't even look at him. I just sat there, heart loud in my chest, hands clenched in my lap. Then he whispered, "You okay?" His voice broke the stillness like a stone on glass. I nodded, but I wasn't. I was unraveling, silently, quietly, piece by piece. He didn't touch me. Not really. But his presence, his attention, was more intimate than anything I'd felt in years. He noticed things Paul hadn't noticed in over a decade. Like the way my hands trembled when I was tired. Or how I wore that one green sweater when I needed comfort. In the weeks that followed, I began avoiding the living room at night. Not because I was afraid of Tyler, but because I was afraid of myself. Afraid of what I wanted. Afraid of what I'd already started to feel. Paul didn't ask. He never did. He moved through the house like a ghost, his habits predictable, his affection absent. I'd watch him fall asleep in his chair, snoring softly while the TV played infomercials in the background. And I'd sit on the porch alone, staring at the sky, wondering how I'd become invisible in my own life. One evening, Tyler came over again. Monica had asked me to give him some old boxes from their attic I'd been storing. We ended up sitting on the porch steps, the sun dipping low behind the trees, casting orange streaks across the sky. "You've been quiet lately," he said, not looking at me. "I've been thinking," I replied. "Me too." I finally turned to face him. His expression was unreadable, calm, maybe even sad. "I shouldn't have let the other night happen," I said, barely above a whisper. "But you did," he replied gently. "And I didn't stop you." We sat there in silence for a long while. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill the air, it presses on your chest, makes you aware of every breath. He didn't try to move closer. He didn't reach for my hand. He just existed beside me, steady and present, like an echo of something I'd forgotten I needed. When he left, I watched him disappear down the sidewalk. And when I turned around, Paul was in the kitchen, rinsing dishes. You okay? He asked, without looking up. I nodded. And lied. Because I wasn't okay. I hadn't been for years. But now I was aware of the ache. Aware of how much I had buried just to keep moving forward. Tyler didn't awaken desire in me. He awakened grief. Grief for the woman I used to be. For the joy I once felt. For the dreams I'd shelved so neatly in favor of stability. After that night, I started journaling. Pages and pages of memories, questions, confessions I could never say aloud. I wrote about my marriage, not out of spite, but out of longing. I wanted to remember what it once felt like to be held with meaning. To be asked how my day was. To be looked at with eyes that saw past the surface. I tried to talk to Paul once. I miss us, I said. He looked confused. We're fine. And maybe to him, we were. Bills paid. Kids healthy. A roof over our heads. But fine isn't the same as alive. I didn't see Tyler for a while. Monica mentioned he was working more, keeping busy. Part of me was relieved. Part of me mourned. But the change had already happened. Not between me and Tyler. Inside me. I began to shift. I signed up for pottery classes. Not because I wanted to sell anything, but because I missed using my hands for something other than chores. I repainted the guest room a soft lilac. I started reading again. Not self-help books. Not cookbooks. Real novels. Stories that reminded me how deeply people can feel. And slowly, Paul noticed. Not in words, but in small gestures. He asked where I was going. He offered to join me at the farmer's market. He brought home a bottle of the wine I liked, one I hadn't had in years. We didn't talk about the gap between us. Not at first. But there was a sense that maybe, just maybe, he felt it too. Tyler came by one day unexpectedly. Said Monica had sent him to pick up a dish I'd borrowed. We stood in the doorway, both a little awkward, both pretending it was just another errand. Are you okay? He asked again. I smiled, but it was real this time. I think I'm getting there. He nodded slowly, his eyes soft. Me too. We didn't speak of that night again. Not out loud. But there was something in the way we said goodbye. Not regret. Not shame. Just acknowledgement. Of a moment that revealed more truth than we were ready to face. I'm still married. But I'm not the same wife I was before. Because now I refuse to live unnoticed. I ask questions. I speak up. I feel. And every so often, when I sit down in that same living room, with the same flickering movies and the same familiar silence, I remember that night not for what almost happened, but for what it changed in me. It reminded me that being wanted isn't the same as being whole. That longing is not a substitute for healing. That one stolen moment can be a mirror, not a destination. And most of all, it reminded me that the quietest moments can be the ones that finally break you, but also the ones that begin to put you back together. If this story touched something deep inside you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own life or long to be seen again, you're not alone. At Infidelity series, we tell real, raw, emotional stories that explore love, loss, longing, and everything in between. Sparkles, if this journey moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Infidelity series. Your voice matters here. Your story might be next.